Airbnb can be a great way to make money off of your home, where you rent it out to strangers and just collect money every month. But before you go buying up every spare house you can find, you may want to do some research, especially if you're considering retrofitting or renovating your properties with amenities. Some amenities will be assets and attract more and higher paying customers, while other amenities will largely go unused and not raise your average price per night and may not get you any business. So I wanted to figure out, using publicly available information on Airbnb's website, exactly which amenities correlate to listings that are able to A, charge higher prices, and B, attract more sales, which I can proxy using review counts to figure out which ones are actually getting rented and which ones aren't. So to figure this out, I took a very unscientific approach and just went to Airbnb and found a bunch of listings around me here in New York State area. So I scrolled through their website and I got to about 3,000 listings, and I used this new tool called the HAR file scraper, which allows me to just scroll through Airbnb, obeying their terms of service, and then I export what's called a HAR file containing all of the data that Airbnb sent to me. And then I use this tool on this DC data platform that can automatically convert all of the JSON into combined CSV files I can then use for analysis. If this is interesting, please check out the link in the description and you can learn more about the different ways in which you can collect data from Airbnb using their official website. So I ended up getting two spreadsheets, one spreadsheet for the 3,000 Airbnb listings and a separate sheet with the amenities. So it has a row for each amenity and listing pair, making it a very large file. So what I do is I'm using Google Colab here, which is a free hosted service that Google has. So I can run Jupyter notebooks and perform analysis for free. So I just link it to my Google Drive and tell it to load the listings amenity spreadsheet first. And right now it's processing and loading it into pandas. So I can see here each row is a pair of a amenity and the listing ID. And also what's funny is that Airbnb tells you when a listing doesn't have certain amenities. So I can see this listing does not have a hairdryer, but it does thankfully have hot water. Hope it's not too expensive. So I can just verify this real quickly by going to airbnb.com/room/listing ID and verify it does indeed have hot water, and it does not have a hairdryer, and it does not have a few of the other listed amenities like a kitchen. So I imagine it will not rent very highly without having a kitchen. So now I'm just verifying a few of the other amenities to make sure it matches the web. This is always something you want to do whenever you collect web data, to make sure that it matches and it's sane. So everything here looks good. I can verify where these columns say true, it actually has those amenities on the website. So I really only care about the rows in which this column is present equals true. So to only get the true rows, I can use pandas here to set up a filter and then get rid of the false rows. So I can just verify that real quick and show you what it looks like. All right, so now my data frame is a little bit more friendly in that it only shows rows where there's a pairing between the amenity and the listing. Now I want to do a little bit analysis on pricing. So I'm going to go back and load a new data frame for just the listings, one row per listing and no amenities. And I want to figure out the average price, but per person for each listing, and then average that across all listings. This will help normalize for very large houses, which are priced for 10 people versus a small house priced for 1 or 2 persons. So now I can see my average price per person is about $54. And like I said, this isn't perfect. It's going to vary across geographic areas, but it'll do for our little experiment over here. Now I'm calling the merge function so I can add this pricing information to the original amenities sheet, meaning that for every amenity and listing pair like we originally saw, I also want to know that listing's price per person. That way we can compare across different amenities later on and figure out if certain amenities tend to have a positive impact on price. So now when I scroll all the way to the right, I see for this listing an amenity pair that I should have that listing's average price per person here at the very end, $30. Now I'm going to see if we can find some patterns between the amenities. So I'm going to use pandas to group my data by each amenity and then get the average price per person per listing for that amenity. So basically that'll tell us if there's a certain amenity that people are paying more for across our data. But like I said, we will have bias because some amenities could just be correlated to properties that sell for less, for example, if they're in a different geographical region. And the other thing I want to do is get a sum of the review count for each amenity. This will act as a proxy so I can figure out the number of sales these are getting. Now I'm just saving that review total count in my original data frame that I'm working with for the stats. And I'm going to add yet another column to figure out the percentage of listings with those amenities. So for example, I can see that 82% of the listings have air conditioning, 25 or so percent have a barbecue grill, but only 1% have a baby bath. And of course, everyone has Wi-Fi. Okay, now I want to figure out the average number of reviews per listing per amenity to give me a better grasp on how many sales each amenity is getting per listing. So this is just taking the sum and dividing by the number of listings per amenities. So I can see that some amenities generate more reviews and sales than others. And now I want to figure out the price delta. So I'm going to subtract that original average $54 per listing per price per person from the mean price per amenity per listing per person. So I'm going to see some amenities are going to be above the mean and some amenities are going to be below the mean. And some just won't matter, like Wi-Fi didn't really matter much. And lastly, I'm going to make up this new metric I just felt like was a good idea. I'm going to multiply the average reviews per listing times that price delta for each amenity group, and we're going to figure out this assumed effect, which admittedly is just a correlation, not a causation, but when we look at the data, having pets allowed makes sense that it's at the top of our list because it's going to get you more money since you can charge more and not a lot of people are willing to have strange animals in their home. So that came up at the top of our list on amenities you should have to drive sales. And we can see a few other things like having room for events, which we can see from that percent listing column, very few listings have. Only 0.2% or so allow pets, and even fewer are suitable for events. We can see some other things like bedroom and bathroom essentials will help. I believe that may be part of the Airbnb Plus program. I'm not entirely sure. Self-check-in seems like a no-brainer. That's low-hanging fruit and will drive up your sales, as well as having a full kitchen or just a kitchenette. An espresso machine is really high on the list too and should drive sales, as well as pocket Wi-Fi if you're out in the woods. Wide hallways helps. Having bikes is a pretty easy thing to have. Even providing something simple but thoughtful like babysitter recommendations appears to have a significant impact on price and number of reviews you'll get. And then we can see other things that have a decent impact, like a sound system, beachfront. Having a pool is nice. EV charger is probably a good investment for the coming years. Hot tub, barbecue grill. So these are all good purchases you can make, but admittedly they're expensive. They're not as cheap as just buying an espresso machine or providing a babysitter recommendation. And then we get to kind of the middle of the list where these things don't have an impact at all, like Wi-Fi. And now we're at the negative part of the list. So if you notice, gym was slightly negative. It doesn't have a huge impact. No one seems to want to go on an Airbnb to work out at someone else's gym. And we start getting some other amenities that don't really have a big impact and may actually lower what you can charge for your Airbnb. So we see a lot of things that have to do with kids and child safety are not very attractive, and they may turn off the type of guests that are looking to get away and pay a premium for an Airbnb. We can also see, I had to point this out, bidet here in the United States is not very attractive and seems to lower how much you can charge for your Airbnb. And a few other random things here, like I mentioned, rice maker. People don't want to go away on vacation to make rice. And I just want to point out here, this example of correlation and not causation is the skiing amenity. So this appears to be having a lower effect on price, not because it's turning away business, but because a lot of the listings that happen to be able to allow skiing are located in areas that are less expensive than, say, Manhattan in New York City. So now let's make a graph and we can visualize this a little bit. So here I'm just adding another column so I can color positive amenities green and negative amenities red. So here we can see our detractors, and then most of the amenities are in the middle and don't make a difference. And here are the amenities that make a big positive difference, like allowing pets. So if that's not a good enough reason to make your house pet friendly, I don't know what is. So hope you found this useful or at least entertaining. And disclaimer, this is not investment advice because we're really just looking at correlations and some made up metrics I invented this afternoon. This was meant to just explore the raw data and see if we could make any sense of the data, which I believe we did. It seems to make sense overall, but like we saw before, it's not perfect. So for example, having a ski part of your Airbnb doesn't lower the price. It just happens to be correlated to Airbnbs in my sample that were located by mountains and have a lower price per night than Manhattan listings. So take everything with a grain of salt because there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. If you want to do something like this on your own, you can access raw Airbnb data using the link in the description. Or let me know in the comments if you think this is useful and you would like to see more data and correlation investigations. Please remember to like if you learned something and subscribe if you want to see me correlated to your home screen in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. Stay safe and stay data-driven.